Now imagine a creature with a body that is reminiscent of a cuttlefish, with eyes sticking out from stalks like a funky headband, fines on its tail, and a long, skinny nose ending in a mouthful of teeth. Or maybe this thing could be a claw. Yep, the Tully monster is on the move. It's definitely one of those freaky creatures you wouldn't like to face while scuba diving somewhere. Luckily, it went extinct 300 million years ago. This unusual marine beast was discovered in the 1950s in Illinois, and scientists couldn't even agree what it really was. Some thought it was a vertebrate, which means a group of creatures with a spine like us humans. But a team of researchers in Japan studied many fossils of the TL monster, using advanced laser scanning technology to check them in detail in 3 dimensions. There's still a lot they don't know about the Tool monster, but they managed to realize it didn't have any spine at all. Now the next step was to see what type of invertebrate it was. Could it be vertebrate-light, such as a landlet? Or we're talking about something closer to snails and worms. They also discovered the creature had segmentation in the head area that extended from its body. And that's not something bony creatures have still. In recent years, some researchers had the idea. The Tully bee could be related to jawless fish, such as lamprey. These fellas belong to the most ancient group of vertebrates, and are not pleasant to see either. In the case of lamper, we're not talking about extinct animals. They're still out there somewhere, wandering the ocean and scaring other animals. If you see it in the northern and western parts of the Atlantic Ocean where they live, and they've been here really long. Even before the dinosaurs a long time ago, long before humans or I even existed. There were Urit's weird creatures from a group we call arthropods, which include spiders, insects, and crabs. But UIPtoids were unlike anything you've ever seen before. They had a body shape similar to horseshoe crabs, with many segments that made up their body instead of legs. They had special appendages at the front that acted like oars. Some even call them giant scorpions, but most IDs were actually quite small, except for this special one which was truly enormous. It could grow to a staggering length of about 8 feet. Wow. The next time you see a crab scuttling along the beach, or a spider swimming its web, remember we're lucky we only got mild versions of their ancient relatives, which by the way disappeared hundreds of millions of years ago. Now some Uids were pretty fierce, and fast predators. They would swiftly swim after their prey, chasing them down in the water. Others were more like scavengers, living on the bottom and feeding on whatever they could find. Along the way, they had a taste for the leftovers, like some sort of cleanup crew of the ancient oceans. IDs love to spend their time in brackish water environments. It's water with more salinity than fresh water, but still less than seawater. Now imagine you're just floating around and all of a sudden you see this guy. No, it's not some weird tiny spaceship, and you won't see it floating in space, even though that's where it would perfectly fit in, as some weird creature from another planet you'd see in sci-fi movies. You'd actually see it floating in the sea, because we're talking about a really small animal with enormous eyes called Dilacas. Each of its eye bulbs was about a quarter of its whole body length. That's what gives it that space. Looked like it might live on one of the oceans under the surface, where we look for life like Europa. One of Jupiter's moons, or Titan, Saturn's biggest moon. I could easily imagine creatures like Dakaras giving us a warm welcome. Once we get to Mars, two Dilacas had great vision. Do we keep a keen eye out for any movement in its surroundings? Once it noticed something, it would swiftly launch its spiky appendages forward. At first, these things looked like tools for fixing stuff, but Delas actually used them to capture smaller arthropods. The unusual thing is that even though it had such great eyesight, Dilakis still spent most of its time catching prey in brighter waters near the surface, and yet scientists found its fossils in the rock layers that are more often associated with darker environments where animals such as deep sea, canid, and vampire squids reside today. It's confusing, but one of the explanations for this says it's possible these deep sea creatures actually lived in shallower waters in the past and later ended up in the depths as the geography of our planet changed over time. No one knew what Delos really was. It could belong to a group of arthropods, and it seems to me that's where most of the world's weirdest creatures are. Some believe it could be related to mantis shrimp, while others compare it to blind worm-like crustaceans that live in dark underwater caves. And check out this enormous worm lurking beneath the sandy ocean floor, patiently waiting for its next meal to swim. By these ancient creatures were like stealthy predators, perfectly camouflaged in their sandy layers. And now, 20 million years later, scientists have found the remains of their hidden hideaways. The burrow they discovered, shaped like the letter L, was found preserved in ancient sediment on the sea floor of Taiwan. It was around 7 feet long and only an inch wide. That's where the ancestors of modern bobbit worms live. Bobbit worms have been around for a long time. They can grow to be a few inches to a whopping 10 feet long. A pretty weird creature dominated the skies at the end of the dinosaur age in North America. We know it as Quetzalcoatlus, and it soared above famous dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus and Triceratops, showing them who the ultimate ruler of the skies was. Quetzalcoatlus belonged to a group of flying reptiles called parasaurs. They were some of the biggest flying animals ever known to exist. When you think of Quetzalcoatlus, imagine an animal as tall as a giraffe. These incredible creatures had long necks, small bodies, long legs, and wings that were relatively short compared to their size. The biggest of its kind was really massive and held the title of being the largest flying creature of all time. They had long pointed skulls, while some also had short crests at the back of their heads. And for a long time, researchers were confused about how these giant pterosaurs hunted for food. At first, some even believed that Quetzalcoatlus and its relatives were like giant vultures that scavenged the remains they would find around. They drew such a conclusion because Quetzalcoatlus fossils were found inland away from the coast, where other big parasaurs were found, such as the crested pteranodon. Plus, many thought these fellas were skilled at skimming, which means lurking over freshwater systems and catching fish. But it appears these massive animals were actually predators with excellent hunting skills. The exact technique they used to catch their prey remains a mystery. Though now, here's another cool discovery. A specific fossil as the oldest evidence of muscle tissue ever found. This fossil belongs to a group of animals that includes modern creatures such as jellyfish, corals, and sea anemones. And it looks so cool and unique, right? It has bundles of fibers arranged in a four-fold symmetrical pattern, similar to what we see in Nardian today. This arrangement is different from any other fossil from that period. Now, this fossil may look weird, but it helps us understand the evolution of muscle tissue and animals. All of us actually got new options for discovering different feeding strategies and generally new things to do thanks to mussels. And it's not like scientists usually get to study fossilized mussels. It's more that they learn about that based on how animals feed, reproduce, move, and do other things. So this cool fossil suggests animals may have had an earlier origin than we used to believe. That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the hidden info secrets.